Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies, and welcome to Science Fiction Saturday once more. And this time around, because it is the flavour of the week, we are going to talk about the Fantastic Four First Steps. 2025 Marvel joint, directed by Matt Shankman, starring Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Eben Boss-Bacharach, Joseph Quinn, Julia Garner, Mark Gatiss, and Natasha Lyonne. So we've got some interesting characters in there. This is the fifth attempt to make a Fantastic Four movie based on the 1960s comics, written and drawn by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, who, by the way, I will do one spoiler, just one. There's a momentary cameo in the movie of Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. It's literally a blink and you'll miss it, because I blinked and I missed half of it. Few things to say before we get started. This is a very different Marvel movie. For a start, it runs under 2 hours. Exactly 114 minutes, which is 1 hour and 44 minutes, which is a good length. It's not a 3-hour epic that's going to tax your bladder. It's like bang, 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 get everything done. And there's some very concise storytelling in this. For a start, the movie doesn't take place in the standard Marvel Cinematic Universe world. It starts on Earth 828, and it's the 1960s on Earth 828. Not all Earths have the same, time doesn't run the same in all of them. And it's 4 years since Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Ben Grimm, and Johnny Storm were the first people to go into space. And when they went into space, they found a cloud of cosmic radiation, which changed their DNAs and turned them into Mr. Fantastic, a guy who can stretch, the Invisible Woman who can turn invisible and also produce force fields. Ben Grimm got turned into a big orange beast, and Johnny became the Human Torch. We all know all that from the 1990s, very small budget Roger Corman version of the movie, plus the two that were done in the 2000s, and Josh Trank's very unsuccessful Fantastic Four from 2015. In fact, this movie is pretty much a remake of Rise of the Silver Surfer from 2007. But like the Maltese Falcon, it's a better version. This 1960s that we get in Fantastic Four First Steps is beautiful. It's sumptuous. It is the retro future where we're all promised and we never got delivered to us. The architecture is fantastic. It's a combination of streamlined modern and googie architecture, so you can Google those later. Very, very 1950s, 1960s. It's Las Vegas on steroids. It's the Frank Sinatra Las Vegas on steroids. Everything is beautiful. Everything's fantastically 1960s retro architecture. There are a few bits where it's different from our time. Well, there are a lot of bits where it's different from our time. Things like they haven't invented flat screens, so everything's a cathode ray tube, up to the giant displays they have in Times Square. They are simply cathode ray color TVs, which I'm there for. It's fantastic. The technology for recording video and sound is very different in this world. But Reed Richards is the smartest man in the world. He is the genius. He is the GOAT when it comes to technology, and he has advanced his world way ahead of where our 1960s was. Sue Storm, played by Vanessa Kirby, is, as the director says, the most emotionally intelligent person in the world. She's the founder of the Future Foundation, which has achieved global demilitarization and peace. There's only one country in their world which is not part of the global peace. And that country, for those of you in the know, is Latveria. Johnny Storm isn't the dumb playboy that we get from other versions of the Fantastic Four. He's a little more grounded, a little more intelligent. Him and Ben have a bromance antagonistic relationship, which is really cool. And he actually does some of the hard research that lets them prevail during the plot of the movie. And then we've got Eben Boss-Bacharach as Ben Grimm, the Thing, who isn't the melancholy, oh dear me, I've turned into a great big orange monster kind of Ben Grimm. He's dealt with it pretty well. And in fact, he does have a romantic interest in this movie. A woman called Rachel Rosman, played by Natasha Lyonne, who doesn't get a lot of time. But there's a nice rapport between the two. They meet up outside of school where she works, and later on when things get to the crunch, he goes and visits her at her synagogue because canonically Ben Grimm is Jewish and so is Rachel Rosman. So she says to him, do you want to come here to pray? And he went, no, I came to see you. So there's a really nice little bit there. And Ben is very much part of his community. He grew up on Yancey Street in the slums, and he likes spending his time in Yancey Street and talking to people there. He's a local folk hero. So they've changed the narrative on the melancholy monster that we got from other previous versions of Fantastic Four, and I think that's a good choice. Then we get the robot companion from the original cartoons from the 1960s, Herbie, who's kind of fun. It veers close to being one of those stupid R2-D2 robots that you can't understand, but everybody in the movie understands. But it works a little bit better because the technology is very, very groovy in Herbie. So the story we all know. Fantastic Four are living their lives as 4 years after they change the world. And suddenly the Silver Surfer turns up. Now, this isn't the boy Silver Surfer. This is the female Silver Surfer from the retcon that was done on the character in a number of years ago. A woman called Shalabal, who was a reluctant herald for Galactus, played by Ralph Ineson, who is a world-eating creature, an enormous humanoid creature who has an endless hunger to eat planets. And so he has a herald who he sends out to find planets for him. And Shalabal, also known as the Silver Surfer, goes there and tells the people to get all their ducks lined up because the world's going to be destroyed. And she actually does that to Earth. She lands in front of the Fantastic Four in Times Square, as the trailer tells us, and says, prepare yourselves. Galactus is coming. Your world is ending. And the Fantastic Four go, no fucking way. But not in those words. At the same time, it turns out that Sue is pregnant with a child that they end up calling Franklin. And not only is there a genuine existential threat to Earth 828, but they've got to deal with parenthood and unclehood in the case of the other two. And just as things start getting toward the end of the pregnancy and they think that the world is doing okay, the Herald of Galactus turns up and they've got to confront this existential threat. They've got a spaceship too, which has a launch pad just offshore in New York City, which is very, very groovy. A thing called the Excelsior. And so the Fantastic Four go to space. They have some fantastic technology, which I love. I love all the technology in this movie. It just really hits my sweet spot of retro futurism. And they confront Galactus in space as his ship is coming toward the Earth. That doesn't work, and then they have to have a plan B to stop Galactus from destroying the Earth. And Galactus has made a demand of the Fantastic Four in particular in order to avoid destroying the Earth, which is a price that's too high to pay. The movie does so many things well. Right up the front, there's a TV documentary about the first 4 years of the Fantastic Four, where a TV presenter called Ted Gilbert, played by Mark Gatiss. And by the way, if you haven't seen Mark Gatiss's new TV series, Bookish, you should check that out. It's bloody good. 6 episodes, set just after World War II, crime mystery series, terrific. But Mark Gatiss is in this movie as well. And so they pack down the info dump right at the start in a very, very entertaining way. And they show a lot of the creatures and beings that the Fantastic Four have fought, including Mole Man, the leader of the subterranean nation of Subterranea, which is underneath New York City. And they actually make peace with Mole Man and Subterranea in this movie. And I love that. I love the fact they pull in very early Fantastic Four antagonists and make it part of the world. It's just such a richly detailed world. And the info dump is slid in with a lot of lube. It really is put together nicely. Pedro Pascal gives us a very different scientific genius to Tony Stark as well. His Reed Richards is at least as smart as Tony Stark, plus he's working with 60 years older technology. So he's created a technological utopia on Earth using 1960s technology advanced a bit. So not only is he smarter than Tony Stark, but he's working with basically flint tools compared to modern technology that Tony Stark had to work with. But Reed Richards is very different. He is a warrior, in the sense of W-O-R-R-I-E-R, as well as being a warrior. He worries about things. He really feels that he has, because he and his crew went into space, they've somehow summoned the attention of Galactus. And not only is he dealing with imminent fatherhood and then the existential threat that comes just as his child is born, but he is somebody who is really worried about things and knows that he can find a way to fix them. He's a scientist, and he's working not with computers to figure things out, but an enormous chalkboard, and he writes the formulas on the chalkboard and tries to figure things out that way. He's working with a lot less of a powerful tool set than Tony Stark ever worked with in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And because he is somebody who is prone to melancholy, perhaps, and really is worried about things and worried about whether he can do what he needs to do, it's just a very different kind of scientific superhero than we've had before in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I like that. I like the fact that you can contrast him very easily with the cocky, arrogant genius of Tony Stark. It's a very smart move by Marvel to do that, because even in the comics, Reed Richards is a very different person than Tony Stark. More New York based, because Tony Stark's very West Coast. And I think they chose well with Pedro Pascal. And they also chose well with the other cast members, Vanessa Kirby, Ibn Moss Bacharach. Working with motion capture and CGI gives us a very interesting Ben Grimm. And there's a scene where story moves forward a number of months. You go, Ben's chin looks different. And it's only late in the film you figure out what it is, because he's got a bigger chin, a big pointy chin, which he didn't have in the rest of the movie. He's grown a beard, and the big pointy bit is an extrusion of himself like a beard. And I like that. I think that's a very nice way of conveying that this isn't just a CGI creature, it's something that grows. I really love that stuff. It's not, attention isn't drawn to it, but it really does that incredibly well. And it's only right at the end where you see Ben trimming his beard with an angle grinder that you realise what it is. And that's just like a little flash of a scene in a whole bunch of windows that are on the screen. Really marvellous stuff. And Galactus is incredibly imposing, because Galactus is enormous. The special effects technology they use to turn Ralph Ineson into Galactus gives you the scale of the creation really well. The enormity of him and the monumental size of him and the implacability of the character and the fact that he's not stupid. He is basically a space vampire who eats planets, and he wants to find a way to stop that hunger he has. And that way of dealing with that is on Earth. The sheer enormousness of it, where Galactus jumps off his throne and lands in the water off the coast of New York City, and then emerges from the water with enormous rivulets of water cascading off him. And then there's Fantastic Four fighting him. The sheer scale of this creature and this being is incredibly grounded and well done. And my friend Grant Watson says that if you can see it on IMAX, it's going to blow your socks off. And even watching it at Titan Lux down at Reading Cinemas at Millers Junction, it was bloody impressive there. I actually paid for a ticket instead of using my film critics pass to see this one, because I wanted to see it with Dolby sound and reclining seats. So I paid out my $21 and went and saw it at Miller's Crossing instead of using the freebie. Overall, I love the fact that this is Marvel pivoting away from giving us something we've seen 36 times before, because there are 36 Marvel movies so far before Fantastic Four First Steps. And the whole feel, the vibe, the scale of it, to having a shorter runtime and giving us characters in a different world than we've ever seen before in the Marvel Universe is just such a canny way of the bullshit that is superhero fatigue, and saying there are other ways we can tell stories, there are other worlds we can show you, there are other characters coming from a different culture that we can show you, but are still believable and grounded. And one of the things that's been said about this movie, which I agree with, is there are relatively few characters in it. So the focus can remain on character building for the Fantastic Four and the ancillary people around them, much more than you could in a standard Marvel epic where you've got 57 characters, all of whom have got to have their moment to shine. And that dilutes the possibility of character development for any 1, 2, or 5 characters. Nobody does this kind of movie better than Marvel at the moment. Yes, James Gunn and Superman are starting on the journey to be a good compare and contrast with Marvel. But Marvel has just such a long period of doing big things, sometimes failing, and learning from those failures. And what this version of the Fantastic Four tells us is that they've learned from their mistakes and they've done something different. They've made it incredibly retro. They've given us a world that is incredibly textured. I mean, the world building in this is at least as good in a very, very, very different way than Ryan Coogler's Black Panther, which showed us an Afrofuturist world. The retrofuturism in this movie is at least as bold and as interesting and as immersive as Wakanda was in Black Panther, but from a very different viewpoint. I enjoyed this movie a lot. I don't know whether it's the best Marvel movie or not, but it is an inflection point where things are going to shift differently. And we're coming up to Avengers Doomsday, where the big bad is going to be Victor Von Doom, played by Robert Downey Jr. And I'm there for that. I want to see how they go from Earth 828 to the main Earth of the Avengers series. I want to see how the Fantastic Four, characters we've grown to know from watching this movie, how they adapt to a very different world when they eventually do transition to the main Marvel universe. I just like that. I just like the fact that we're going to get that, and that this movie is bait in the water for us to see those things and enjoy those things and continue these narratives. One of the other things this movie does, which I think is a good way to do it, is because it is set on another universe, 828, it doesn't have to deal with parallels with contemporary America in any way. This is a Kennedy-era America in a sense. And so they don't have to deal with the hopefully temporary insanity of 2025 America. And I really enjoy the fact that they've done that. And it also gives them a breathing space there to create what they need to create for the epic that's going to be Avengers Doomsday. Now, there are going to be people that say they don't like Marvel movies, that they're over superhero movies and all that kind of stuff. And fair enough, you know, you can always go and watch another Mamma Mia sequel if you want to. And yes, I'm being dismissive of those people. But for me, being a superhero geek for more years than I care to enumerate, I was there for this one. I liked it. I liked the retrofuturism, the future I was promised but never got. He's in this movie in the best possible way. Good actors giving us different versions of superheroes than we've ever seen before. I think Marvel has got hold of things quite well for the movies that are going to follow this. And to be honest with you, you don't need to have seen all the other Marvel movies to enjoy this one. You can use this as your starting point, or use this as a way of picking things up again, if you so choose to. That's a good thing. So that's what I got for you this time around. A movie I enjoyed a lot, much more than I have maybe the last 3 or 4 Marvel movies that I've seen, even though I did enjoy them as well. But this one I enjoyed more. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Leave a comment. Let me know if you've seen it and you enjoyed it. Or if you're going to see it, or if you're not going to go see it. Or if you've burned all of your copies of the Avengers movies because you got pissed off at something. Tell me all of that. You can also hit the notification bell. You can support the channel too by becoming a channel member or by becoming a patron at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. Next up, we've got the Monday video, and I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm going to figure something out. I always do. So until then, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Just dive into the retro future of Fantastic Four First Steps and have a good time. Get the popcorn, get your drink container with Pedro Pascal sitting on the top of it, and just have a bit of fun. And I'll catch you next time.